We're Penn and Pole DFS. I'm Ricky.
I'm Keaton.
And we're going to be talking about NASCAR today. Some Martinsville.
Yeah, short track.
The Blue-Emu Maximum Pain Relief 500.
Nailed it. First take.
I don't even have to try it. Blue-Emu, shout out to Landon Castle. Shout out to Landon Castle's the only one I know that's sponsored by them.
Gotcha.
I'm sure there's others.
I'd never heard of it until this race.
It's a little bit exciting to finally get to a short track that's not covered in dirt, unlike last week. And
2 weeks ago, we had last week off for Easter.
We did, yeah. The last race covered in dirt.
Yep.
This week covered in concrete.
No dirt.
Just mostly concrete. So housekeeping, as you see, there are multiple bullets. I did not do most of these bullets. I don't know what they are. Weekly show beer first. It is Southern Tier. Where's Southern Tier out of? Is that in Charlotte?
Well, this is Charlotte Brewed Hazy Days IPA. So they have a location in Charlotte, but they also have a location. I feel bad reading this cap while we're on the show, but it's not in. It might be New York.
It's Intuitive Flavors brewed in the Queen City. So we'll call. Oh no, it's Brewers at Yancey, so it's fine. Yeah. We'll call it a Charlotte beer. And,
brewed in Charlotte.
If you don't think it's Charlotte beer, then go to 401 Brewers at Yancey, and it's a cool place.
It is a cool place. Good.
It is
good
a very
food.
Cool place. Good food. Good beer. Good space.
Solid space. COVID friendly. Spaced
out. I
out.
don't know about that, but sure, it can be.
Outside seating.
Is it?
They have good outside seating.
I haven't been there in ages. I don't think I've been there since pre-COVID.
Oh, missing out. They have good chicken wings.
I have good pizza. That's all bad.
And good pizza.
Anyways, as usual, thank to our viewers. We had
those that are left after we've been talking about local Charlotte establishments.
Exactly. We had a very successful master stream, and obviously we did not do a Bristol dirt stream because, as like everyone else, we didn't know what the heck to expect from Bristol.
Yeah.
And I was racing an actual car, so
Ricky Parker Racing, the 25 car.
Yeah, follow Ricky Parker Racing on Facebook.
Next week, or maybe 2 weeks from now, we should both be wearing our Ricky Parker Racing T-shirts on the show.
They'll be here soon.
Can't wait.
And but yeah, so as we go, we'll talk a little bit about how we did last week on those very secretive
bills that we did. Yeah.
And then we'll follow through with some selections from this week and my distribution, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
But as I said, my week, the dirt race was
started off super high.
It was great.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of Truex.
I think you were like 55% Truex.
So much Truex, and honestly, my only regret is that I didn't have more Truex.
When he led start to finish,
when
of course.
he led start to finish, and he was just great. As you can see here, I had 7 lineups into the. I don't even know what the top.
I think it was a big $10
or $10, whatever it is.
But the big
the big one, the big maximum 50 on DraftKings for trucks. I had 7 lineups, 6 of them cashed. That's how good I played.
And some of them pretty well.
Yeah, I did really well. I made all of the money that I lost this week in golf in this truck thing. But yeah, so no, trucks went great. In Cup Series, I struggled a little bit.
Yeah.
I did not have near as much trucks as I needed, apparently. But I had a lot of Christopher Bell, who unfortunately wrecked while he was in third.
I had too much Logano.
And then various other.
Larson.
Logano.
You didn't have enough Larson. You had too much Larson, yes.
Yeah. So this is definitely an interesting, field of like the dirt race, because it really was something where, like in trucks, where I just happened to hit the people that I think might be good. And then in Cup, you just didn't. I had a lot of Suarez in trucks, and then he
needed
just
him
did
in cars.
Okay,
yeah.
And then he did great in Cup, and I don't know. Yeah, back to a we're concrete,
normal
but
track.
Back to a non-dirt surface where we're going to be a little bit better this week. Fingers crossed. So as usual, we like to walk through just like what the points base is, that type of thing. As usual, lap base, lap sled, points for fastest lap, and then finish base. You get points for finish, and then your points for position differential. Yep. So looking at lap sled, this is something. It's 500 laps, so there's
a lot of points.
A little bit higher potential amount, though, as you can see with these average lap sleds since 2018, there's more people leading laps.
Yeah, it's a more even distribution.
Yeah, I mean, you still have like a heavy skew towards the top, but there's more people there, right?
Yeah.
Like there's probably, I mean, we see here, I think there's 8.
And normally we have 2 or 3 or 3 or 4 maybe.
Normally we have 2 or 3 or 4, but like these 8 are still.
It's a lot of the same names we see. I guess one thing we talked about a little bit when I was asking some questions about a half-mile track versus some of the other track lengths is you said there's maybe some more opportunity for passing at a half-mile track.
Exactly. So you're going to get, it's going to be a little bit less about who has the 100% best car. So that, that may skew one way or the other, may not necessarily mean that we don't play some of the people that we've talked about in the past that we don't think have great cars. That being said, you're still going to have a skew towards the good cars because most of the time the best drivers are in the best cars, that type of thing. But there definitely is, a little bit more of an unknown in that who's going to be the guys that get out there and lead, 100 to 200 to 250 plus laps in a race. As you see, like Truex and Logano and Keselowski are 3 of the main people who have led, over 50 laps a race.
But still at 125 of 500, I mean, he's still not leading. He's only leading a quarter of laps.
Exactly. So there's definitely room for it. I think you definitely need at least probably 2 of the people that do lead the 80 to 100 to 150 plus laps.
Yep.
To be competitive in the DFS side. But there's definitely a bigger grouping to choose from
that can make up those 150 lap leaders.
So I think it's definitely interesting to how you decide who those people are going to be and who you think those people are going to be. I think one thing I noted was that Penske has been very, very strong here. You see Logano, Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, all 3 in the top 5. And so, I mean, they're going to be hard. They're going to be people who are going to be hard to pass up.
What do you think about Bell? Since he's a rookie, he wouldn't be on this list. How do you feel about Bell on this course?
Yeah, I mean, Bell coming from the Toyota side. You see Truex, you see Denny Hamlin, you see Kyle Busch, all 3 up there. So definitely a chance to be up there. And I think he's definitely somebody who is a little bit on the cheaper side. I definitely have a good amount of them.
How did he do as a Infinity driver at short tracks? Do you know?
That's a great question. He's done decently well last year when he drove the 95. Not great, but I think around like 20th or so. Okay. And so he's definitely somebody that you could see take a jump forward. And so we'll see him a little bit later because he definitely pops a little bit in the data.
Ricky Parker model?
In the Ricky Parker model. But not only that, but just in my distribution of drivers that I want and that type of thing. He's definitely somebody that I think definitely has potential to. I think he's starting in the 20 somethings off the top of my head.
It's a good place differential.
And so he's definitely somebody who could definitely get up and I mean, as you see with other Gibbs drivers, definitely a guy that could get in the top 10, top 5. And so definitely somebody to keep an eye on. And I think he's in the mid 8s, so he's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Which is actually interesting as we go on. I think there's really starting to be a really heavy top on the pricing scale. So there's a lot of guys over 11,000 that we haven't really seen thus far. And that is good and bad in that it's harder to get those gunners that you want. But that being said, you're still able to, in the 9,000, 8,000 range, you're still able to get a bunch of really good drivers. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. But as we look at laps led, I mean, these are definitely guys to keep an eye on, and most of them are starting towards the front. I know Truex is starting 7th, Logano starting the pole, Keselowski starting 10th.
And Logano won here last year, right?
Exactly. So he's definitely somebody who to keep an eye on, and so all of these guys are people who are starting towards the front. Other than I think Kyle Busch is the furthest back, starting 12th in this pack. So we'll talk a little bit more as we go through about. There's definitely some potential for position differentials as we go. Okay. But just looking at fastest lap again.
Oh, here we go.
You get some fastest lap info, and this can be a pretty good indicator of who's going to be fast during the next race and who was fast during the last race. because these people, were fast at least a good amount of the race. And again, you see Logano, you see Truex, you see Blaney, you see Elliott. Those four were in the same top. Amarola is somebody that we're going to talk about a lot because he's starting 31st.
And you've played him a ton, and
I'm
he's
not
bit
playing
you a
him
ton.
this week. He's probably going to do great this week, and probably anyone who is playing based on our recommendations should probably play him. I do not have a ton of him. I have a little bit of him.
So what's changed? If we were high on him the last few weeks, why don't you like him on this track? And starting in 31st? Or are you just burnt from the last few weeks of him?
I mean, it's a little bit of burnt, but it's a little bit of just like he just didn't fit in as well. And I'll talk a little bit about it later.
Is he bumped up on price this week? He's been real
he's
cheap.
not super bumped. I mean, he's at 78,100 or 8,100. Sorry.
Oh, so he has more expensive.
So he's a little bit expensive. But I found myself finding other people, partially because I know his ownership's going to be really, really high.
Okay. Starting 31st, that makes sense.
And so I ended up finding a few other people that are a little bit cheaper or just make a little bit more sense in it. I'll definitely talk a little bit about it later. But he's definitely a guy that's probably going to end up burning me. One of these weeks, he's going to pop off.
He's burned you the other way. Now he's going to burn you when he ships them.
He's too good of a driver. He's driving for too good of a team to run as poorly as he's ran this year.
That makes sense.
And so, at some point, he's definitely going to pop off.
But he's had some bad luck with getting banged up.
He's definitely had some bad luck and that type of thing. But for the most part, the people that you see on this list are kind of the main people that we normally talk about each week and the people that we talked about up towards here.
I would just throw the asterisk for our rookies, right? Our Briscoe and Bell.
Yeah,
rookies.
and again, Briscoe is definitely somebody that we're going to talk about because he's super cheap.
And he's been running well.
He's been, and he is somebody who I think is going to at some point take a step up, and especially when you're talking about the fact that Harvick and Amarola are both teammate cars. I didn't include him here, but Clint Boyer, who drove the 14 last year, can't remember where he finished last year, but he has done really well at Martinsville. So
okay, and that's the car that Briscoe stepped into.
So the Stewart-Haas cars have done really, really well there. So he's definitely somebody that I have a ton of.
That makes sense.
So much of him. And he's super cheap. He's only 6,100, I think.
So when we start
really
getting that high-end, expensive guys,
really hard not to find.
Yeah.
As we talk about as we go through, but just going through as we talk about finishing position, you get 45 for first. It's there's a little bit of differential, but it's basically a point a piece down. So you definitely need people to finish in the top 5 to top 10 to have a chance in any GPP.
Yep.
But yeah, that's just something important to think about when you're selecting people, because it's really easy to get into the position differential side, and that's super important. But if they don't have the potential to finish in the top 10, then some of them do pay for themselves, right? We'll talk about it a little bit later. There's some guys who are starting in the mid 30s that if they finish 20th, they probably give you a good shot. But as a whole, you still have to pay attention to the finishing position. And then again, position differential, you get. I don't even understand what's happening there. You get 1 point per position from where you start.
I think that's the same chart from the last screen.
Yeah, it was just really weird because we normally use this every week. But anyway, so you get one position. So if you start 20th and you finish 15th, you get 5 points.
But the reciprocal is true in that if you start 15th and finish 20th, you lose 5 points.
So there's definitely an aspect of guys that are starting a little bit higher than maybe they should place, whether or not those people are normally priced lower, and they definitely ask the question on whether or not you want to risk it a little bit. I think
do need them to finish.
There's more risk and there is some reward, but there's definitely a risk there.
Like say for instance, Logano starting first is in your lineup and crashes and finishes 38th.
Exactly, and he's going to get 0 points.
He's going to get a big fat negative right there.
Yeah, probably negative. So as we look at
that clock is beautiful. You told me you got a grandfather clock for winning. That is just absolutely unreal. I was not expecting a full out, not a man size. I guess I didn't have in my head grandfather clock was
grandfather clock.
Yeah,
I didn't say it was like a
pocket watch,
like a small child's clock. No, it's a grandfather.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things that they do at Martinsville. It's pretty close to Charlotte. It's one of the closer racetracks. I know. From Junior Motorsports this morning, the hauler driver said that it was 109 miles from Junior Motorsports to Martinsville. So really, really short drive.
So Truex has got a couple of these, right?
Yeah, he has a couple.
So when he wins, you think I can call him up and get him to send me the clock?
No.
No. Shit. Okay. Shoot.
I mean, probably not. But
because it would look really nice
if
back
you get
there.
a couple $1 million and you get me into a cup car, and then
so if I get you in a cup car, you're saying you'll give me the clock.
If I win in Martinsville, I get you a clock.
The clock is mine, y'all.
That seems like the most normal deal on the face there. But anyway, so it's close to Charlotte, so it's normally good, and it's a little bit different this year because they aren't doing practice and stuff. So everything's kind of close because you just fly in the night before and then you're there. But normally Martinsville is one of those places where people can sleep in their own beds and.
Oh, so they'll drive the 100 miles up, do the races, qualify, and drive the 100 miles home.
Junior used to get a helicopter back and forth.
Of course he did.
That was part of his contract with Hendrick when he went to Hendrick.
They had to pay for just to Martinsville.
Martinsville, it was a few of the
Bristol maybe
shorter tracks, yeah. And so
interesting.
So yeah, but this is very much a home track, and I mean, you get you definitely have a bunch of people who ran here before, even before they got to Cup. There's a really big late model race here every year. Cool. I know. I mean, it's not Cup, but in Xfinity, Josh Berry, who's running Xfinity for Junior Motorsports, won the late model race at Martinsville two years ago, something like that. And so that's definitely an aspect of.
Is it limited or?
No, it's full late model. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ricky runs limited late model. I'm learning about the cars. So.
They have a big carburetor on it.
Okay. So could you run limited there? Do they do limited races?
Not normally. No. Okay. They only do. It's a big enough track to where they only do they don't do weekly series races. They just do big races every once in a while.
All right. So is your track though a half mile the same as this?
I run at 4/10 of a mile.
Okay, so a little less than a half time.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, no. I mean, it's a very similar track to what you would run at a short track type atmosphere, and so there's going to be more action. There's going to be, unfortunately for DFS purposes, probably more wrecks. And
but for viewership, it's going to be more fun because that's my biggest gripe.
Yeah, 100%.
I can only watch cars following behind Truex for so long. I want to be a Kyle Busch fan, but every time I turn on the TV, it's Truex out front. So part of me wants to be a Truex fan too, but I think I'm going to be a Kyle Busch fan.
So as usual, my selection strategy: 2 gunners.
Yep.
Sometimes 3.
If you can fit them in this week, if the prices are expensive, did you?
But they were
going down to the 9Ks.
The 3 other guys were very bad.
Yeah.
As we'll see with my player pool, it was a little bit weird this week. A lot of the guys there was a really big pop at the top, and there was kind of a hole in the middle, and then there was still some guys at the bottom that I normally don't pick.
Okay.
But they ended up still popping into my
kind of a stars and scrubs model.
Yeah, which I didn't love, but we'll talk about it a little bit later. But again, the 500 laps means more potential for leading laps, more potential for fastest lap.
Yep.
And so you definitely have to hit, at least 2 of those right on the head to have a chance to win. I don't think this is a week where you could just have one.
I don't, unless the course history is wrong, where that someone's going to go out and lead 400 laps, which doesn't seem likely.
I know. I mean, I think 2 or 3 to 4 people are going to lead a lot of the laps, but I don't think it's going to be one person's going to lead.
So you're going to need 2 of those 3 or 2 of those.
I think you definitely need 2 of them. I don't see how you're going to win elsewhere. So I definitely started all my lineups with 2, and then went from there. But we'll talk a little bit about it later. As we look at position differential opportunity, I think one thing I wanted to say here was I think that as we go throughout this year, because there is no qualifying, that the races after, I'm going to call them weird races.
The non-traditional
after
races.
A non-traditional race. So after the dirt race, after a road course race, after a super speedway race.
Yes.
After those races, you're going to see the biggest opportunity to pick guys who have position differentials, because you see people.
And as a real quick recap, can you explain, since we're not doing qualifying, what makes up the pole position, or what makes up starting qualifying position?
Yeah, so season? Basically, it's a weird algorithm, but it's basically half of where you are in the points, half of where you finished the previous week.
Okay, so
there's an aspect of fastest lap and that type of thing, but it's basically how you finished last week and where you are in the points. So
the wonky gives you an opportunity to the guys that don't always finish up top may not may finish lower, and so they're going to start lower.
Exactly. So, and I think it's good in the sense that it probably makes it easier to X out some people.
Because they aren't starting well?
Because they're starting too well, probably. Okay. So, and that may bite you if they do end up doing well. I know, like, a perfect example of this was, like, Michael McDowell in the early part of the year.
Okay.
When he finished, I think it was at Homestead, when he started, like, 5th, and I was like, don't touch Michael McDowell. And then he ran, like, 8th, and you're like, okay, he was, like, $5,000.
His finishing points
like,
got
he was,
him.
like, he was definitely worth it. But since then, he hasn't been. But, like, I think this is definitely a time where your position starting, and I've listed some people here that I think are starting a lot lower than the position that they're probably going to finish or should finish.
They're likely finishing.
Just to go through them, Eric Almirola, who we talked about earlier, was really, really good last year at Martinsville. He had a battery problem, but like he led laps. He was fastest lap. His average finish is way above 31st.
So did he not finish the race with the battery problems last year?
I mean, I don't know if he finished, but he definitely finished laps down.
Okay.
He finished pretty far back. But like otherwise he's done really, really well. And he's definitely way better than 31st. And at $8,100, he's not even that expensive. He's not cheap, but he's not that expensive.
Kind of means the weeks that Tyler Reddick started like in the 28th or 30 positions, and then Reddick 100%. Was around the same price, and we just crammed Reddick in.
The week that Reddick started like 38th and was $8,500, and I was like, if you don't start Tyler Reddick, you're dumb.
This is the all-in Reddick.
And then he finished second, and I was like, see, I told you.
See, I told you. That's how you turn money.
And
so is this Amarola week then? Is this?
I don't know if it's that much so. But I definitely think it's close. I don't have a lot of him, so I'm going to hope that it's not.
Well, I think I'm probably going to you might have sold me on him.
As I'll talk later, I'm really big on Matt DiBenedetto this week, who's starting a little bit higher, but is $7,800.
Okay. A little cheaper.
And so he's somebody who I kind of pivoted to a lot, who kind of fit into my lineups a lot better. Probably because of how expensive the top end is, as we'll talk about here in a minute.
And it also makes sense if Amarola is this obvious value. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be
super down.
Yeah.
I saw somebody on Twitter say, "Is he going to be 60 or 80% owned?" And I was like, "That feels high." But,
and if that's true, you have to fade him, right?
Yeah.
Because there's more. If he's truly going to be 60% owned, there's a decent chance he'll not finish the race because of a crash. And then
or he just does okay.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like if he finishes 20th,
18th,
18th, like. It's a good week, but like it's not going to win you any GPP stuff. But that being said, as we move down, we look at Bubba. Bubba is somebody who I think is like poised for a breakout because I think the 2311 cars are way better than they've been finishing so far. Mm-hmm. I think he's shown a few weeks where he's had like random issues, insert issues, that he's a lot better than he's been performing. And not only that, but he's starting 25th. His average finish since 2018 in the 43 car, which is not as good of a car, has been 22nd.
Yeah.
He's definitely a guy that I think could get 15th or better easy. And so I got him a lot. And at 7,300, he's super cheap. Nice. I mean, not super cheap, but like relatively cheap compared to everyone else.
Now, super cheap we're getting to right here.
Super cheap right here, Chase Briscoe. I don't know how you don't play him. I had so much trouble not playing him a lot.
So you say here it's his first Cup start. Do you know about his Infinity starts? I know I asked that about Bell.
I don't know off the top of my head. He definitely. I mean, he obviously did really well in Xfinity Series as a whole, but
you don't know if he was more of a what his specialty was.
Do
you guys have specialties?
His specialty was winning.
Which just generally didn't matter what track it was, dude. Just won.
Basically, you had 9 wins last year.
I mean, that's how you end up in Cup, I guess.
And so Briscoe is somebody who I think is going to continue to progress throughout the year. So I don't worry as much about where he the track right now because I think that. I think the cars are good enough to finish a lot higher than
we've seen how good his car is,
being $6,100.
We've seen how good his car
is. But not only that, but I think that as we go, he's only going to get better because he's a really, really good race car driver.
So he can easily finish top 10, and at that point, I think you'd have to have him in your lineup. If he finishes in the top 10 at his price tag starting 24th, I don't see a winning lineup, a first place lineup that wouldn't have him in it.
Yeah, and if he finishes top 10, you've got... So, I mean, one thing that's important to know is that when you see potential in drivers and you see potential in people in DFS, that it's better to get in on the front end of them.
Yeah, 100%.
Because at some point, Chase Briscoe's too good of a driver to not pop off. I think personally, that's my opinion, and it may be 2 years from now. But I think he is too good of a driver to pop off, and I would rather be constantly getting him and getting burned at $6,100 than complaining about how I was like, oh, I thought Chase Briscoe was going to be really good when he's $9,500 or $10,000 every week.
That's 100%. That is a great observation from someone that has not been in DFS long, because that is 100% true. If you like someone it's in NFL, you'll see it. You'll like a running back. He's got a good matchup and good opportunity, and he'll go out and just put a dud up. He'll rush 20 times for 60 yards and no touchdowns. The total dud for his opportunity. But he touched the ball 20 times, and then next week he'll be playing a similar opportunity, a similarly weak defense, and people will shy away from him. And for all the same reasons you liked him in week 1, you have to like him in week 2, and you need to roll him out there because, I mean, like I said, if there's the same exact reasons you liked him, and now he's going to pop off one of these times. So if we like Briscoe, for all these reasons, or Amarola, which makes me want to tell you got to play Amarola this week. I feel like might have to redo your driver distributions.
I'm not redoing it.
If you've been hard on Amarola and now he's in another good opportunity, like I just hate to miss his pop off.
No, I agree. I don't necessarily disagree, but I'll
get Amarola for both of us.
Get Amarola for both of us, and it'll be great. But yeah, I think that's definitely true for Briscoe as somebody who I think he's too good. And I mean, you see, sometimes it takes longer. You see somebody like William Byron who was Xfinity champion, and I mean Briscoe was an Xfinity champion, but he finished like 7th or 3rd in points and won 9 races and like did everything that you could expect someone to do in Xfinity.
See the Will Zalatoris of NASCAR,
basically. And you saw William Byron. It took him a couple years to really start. He won a race last year, and then this year he's been top 10 driver every week, honestly. And so, obviously, I may pump Chase Briscoe every week this entire year, and he may never make that jump, but I think he will eventually. And I'm going to have him every week until he does.
All right, right there. You heard it here, folks. Ricky, flag planted in Chase Briscoe.
But not only that, but you look at people who are also younger drivers who, like Chase Briscoe, or Cole Custer, who's in their 2nd year, who he finished 21st here. He's way cheaper than he should be.
And he's starting 26.
It's a little confusing to me. I mean, he's only a little bit less than Bubba, but, I mean, the car is good. He's shown that he's a good driver. I don't really understand why he's so cheap. I mean, obviously,
DraftKings has to let you build lineups. If they make all those 11K and 10-8 guys, they got to give you some cheapies.
I have a lot of him because I think he's somebody who definitely has top 15 plus potential. And at $7,000, he doesn't really have to do that much to pay off your and especially when you look at the people around him, he has the position differential, he has the finishing place potential. And, he's definitely somebody that I found a lot of, as we'll see later.
He's probably a top 17, 15 car, something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And the next 3, as you see down, these are guys that are more upper echelon guys that are just kind of weirdly, starting in a lower place.
Because they're dirt finishes like we saw Larson get
exactly.
trashed.
You see Larson wrecked. Bowen was in the same place, got wrecked.
Yep.
I think Kurt Busch probably did too. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But you're seeing guys that you're getting a lot of potential with.
These are legit studs.
Yeah, Kurt Busch, average finish of 8th. Bowman, average finish of 13th. Kyle Larson, I think his average finish is a little bit lower, but dear God, the way he's been running this year.
I fell over myself to get Larson in my lineups last week, and it cost me a ton, so let's do it again.
The dude's a walking top 5. I mean, he's really expensive, though, this week, and I still found him in 3 or 4 lineups.
Starting 19th, he almost has to be expensive.
At 11.7, he's super expensive. My only problem with the Bowman-Kurt Busch duo, and I felt about them very similarly because they're very similarly priced,
and started similarly.
It was very hard to find them with the upper echelon and the bottom echelon. So it was very hard to make lineups where I got them in.
What about a balanced build where you're almost using them? You'd need someone higher up because so when I'm building lineups, I want someone that's starting top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. Someone can be an early dominator, right?
Yeah, you definitely need somebody early on that.
So here, you're not getting an early dominator. So what's a balanced build look like? I mean, if you...
I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe you could go maybe somebody like Harvick or Hamlin.
A little cheaper, but high
who are less than 10,000, but are still starting in the top 10. But I mean, that's also putting a lot of trust into Harvick or Hamlin.
Well, what you really need there is you need those guys to run out front for the top 30, 40 laps. Give it time for one of these guys to work their way up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an aspect. I definitely have lineups with Larson and Keselowski.
Okay, and Keselowski's run out. Okay, so then, I mean, there you were basically hoping Keselowski in the first 20, 30 laps gets out front.
That's the dream.
And in a short track, how feasible is that to get out front?
I mean, it's definitely more feasible in the fact that it's going to happen quicker. I mean, maybe it takes 15, 20, 30 laps, but
they can make up 20 cars in 20 laps.
Yeah, it's definitely going to happen faster. And it's faster in the percentage of the race, but maybe not necessarily faster in the number of laps.
Okay.
But it's definitely possible. I mean, as you'll see, I'll talk a little bit later about my position or my player pool and my player differential or my player distribution. I definitely have a smattering of guys at the top, guys in the middle.
Makes sense.
But it's definitely hard. I had a hard time finding Bowman and Busch, who I think are both really, really good plays. I think if I did 150 lineups, I'd probably have 20% of them.
Gotcha.
But I had a hard time finding them in my 20 lineups runs. Just because of how they were priced. And because I think the big thing was that in the 7,000 range, you had people like Bubba, you had people like Cole Custer, and if you went with these guys, Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman, and you try to put some more upper, gunner type, 10,000 plus guys, it was really hard to get those, lower $7,000 guys, and you had to start getting into, the low 6,000s, and that I've talked to Ed Extension about how I don't like to do that.
And those guys aren't finishing higher than...
Yeah, we'll see later about how some of them actually pop in the data, and I don't like it, and I don't know how to fix it.
Well, I think it's good to show the data as it is, right? The data pops for a reason. Maybe they've only raced a limited number of races this year, or they had one abnormal outside finish, something like that, or they're just abnormally cheap. And so I think it's good to look at the data, but it's also good to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. But as we look at favorites to win, they're the same people, right? You got Truex, the top 5, Truex, Elliott, Keselowski, Hamlin, Logano.
And Vegas has them all really similar. Wow.
All very similar. And of those, I have a lot of... I don't think it's... I have it at the bottom of this page. I don't think it's any secret. I think Keselowski's going to win. I think he's going to do really well. I want him to win. I want him to do very, very well. I think starting 10th, he gives position differential.
Yep.
He gives just track history of just him doing really, really well. The way the Penske cars have ran, I think he is somebody who, if he does really, really well, all of us can do really, really well. But not only that, but if you just look at them all as a whole, and as you'll see my player distribution later, I don't have a lot of Chase Elliott, who I just couldn't find him into it. At 11.4, it was just too expensive for me.
Yep.
But the other 4, I have a lot of. I have a lot of Denny. I have a lot of Logano, even though he's starting first. I have a lot of Truex. And then as we go down, I listed a few other odds just to look at. Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson are both at 12 to 1, so still pretty close to the favorites. And then
Almirola,
who we talked about a minute ago, 80 to 1. Honestly, I would rather put $100 on Eric Almirola than put him in my lineup.
That's the way to do it, right?
Yeah. I think he has a good shot to win, but I had a hard time.
So you think you could actually win this race from 31?
Yeah, 100%.
Really?
100%. I'm not sure he will, but
more than 1.5% of the time.
Is that what 80% is?
Sure. Yeah, it's 1.25, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I would, if I were gonna put $100 on anybody with the upside that he provides, I would put it on Almirola.
I love it. I may have put $10 on it.
But I would also put $100 on Keselowski at 6 to 1.
I may also put $10 on that.
But as we look at just the points potential, position differential. This doesn't incorporate lap sled. This doesn't incorporate fastest lap. But this is raw finishing points based on their average finish at Martinsville.
Yep.
So you look at Kurt Busch. So as you can look down on the right side. Kurt Busch's average finish 8th, Keselowski 4th, Kyle Busch 8th or 9th, Truex 7th, Alex Bowman 13th, and you look at their starting position, you look at their price. You're definitely getting a pretty close, and it's actually interesting because some weeks we get a little bit of a bigger spread.
Okay.
To where like you'll have one or two people up at the top that are like 55 to 65.
And these guys, I mean, at least the 46, 49 are pretty tight, and then pretty tight with the 38 to 37, 37.
So there's definitely, and also not only that, but some weeks we get a lot more starting position and finishing position being more. But you look here, 21st, 10th, 12th, 7th, 20th. You're getting a lot of position differential points.
You're getting some points also on finishing position points.
And so I think this is a week where, kind of like what I was saying, with how there are multiple people who are starting further back than they should be, based on how good their car is, based on how good of a driver they are, et cetera, et cetera. I think this is a week where you have to take into consideration position differential. I don't think you can just pick the top 5 or 6. Or whatever fits your salary wise.
Yep.
I don't think it's going to end up being the best, because I think there's going to be people, especially somebody like Keselowski or Kyle Busch or even a Bowman or Kurt Busch, who are going to finish top 10, top 5. If they finish, as you can see here, if Kurt Busch finishes 8th, he literally scores more than anyone else if they finish where their average position was. And like Alex Bowman, his average finish is 13th. If he finishes 3rd, then he is 47 points, so he's right there with everyone else. Like, if they
all these guys have winning potential.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't feel bad about betting any of them to win.
Yep.
Obviously, there's gonna be different payouts for that.
Yep.
That I would feel comfortable betting, but
they all have a potential to
exactly. Win. So. I think it's definitely something to keep into consideration, and especially, like I said, after the weird races where, non-mile-and-a-half races probably would be the best way to describe it, where you're getting a little bit of different finishing positions than normal.
Yeah.
You're going to get these types of races, and you have to take it into consideration. You can't ignore it, or you're just going to get,
you're going to lose tons of points. Yeah, you're going to lose tons of points.
And so as we look at position differential plus points, so this is just the value side. Is this the value side?
No, next slide.
This is the same slide. As we look at the value side, there we go. As you look at value, so this is your cost divided by the number of average points that you would score.
Okay.
From the last slide. This is where I don't know what the heck to do.
Because you get
Kurt
guys
Busch
like
again. But then you get two people who I just don't know how much to trust. I don't know how much to play.
I'm guessing LaJoy at 5,200 and BJ McLeod at 4,900. The main reason they're popping is that super cheap salary.
They're super cheap.
I mean,
as you see, they're starting 34th. Their average finish is in the 20th. They've had, which I mean isn't a huge sample size, because I think they've only had like maybe 2 or 3 starts a piece, if that. So it's not a huge sample size. But that being said, if Corey LaJoy finishes 24th, it's not a bad day considering his price tag.
I like LaJoy a lot more than I like McLeod.
So I will say the BJ McLeod cars I fear a little bit more because they have not finished races this year, and that's scary. And I mean, Corey LaJoy, in all fairness, the Spire cars have had a little bit of mechanical issues and that type of thing, but not to the same degree. And I think full stop. I think Corey LaJoy is a great driver.
Yeah.
And I think that as that Spire car gets a little bit better as we go throughout the year, I think it may be a viable, 25th to 30th type car going forward. The BJ McLeod cars, I don't know about that. I don't trust them. I would not bet them. He is in my player pool, but a spoiler alert, I have 0 out of 20 lineups.
Okay, so he's in your pool, but he didn't make any of your lineups.
He did not make any of my lineups.
So we were talking a little bit before, and my mind was blown that this guy is just a guy without a race team that's funding his own racing.
I mean, he has a race team.
I mean, it's his own racing, though, right?
Yeah, and he has multiple cars.
My mind was just...
I don't know what his... I don't know where where the money and stuff... I think he has 2 Cup cars and 2 Busch cars, or maybe one.
Oh, so he's got other drivers driving for him
Busch
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good impressive. For you, BJ McLeod. Yeah. I'd like to know what you do for business.
I mean, and the thing is like, he's a good race car driver, too. He hasn't shown me that his race cars are good.
Yeah. Well, and they're competing against the best, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's just a different echelon. And until it's almost it almost is the vice versa of what I was talking about with Chase Briscoe earlier, where I was talking about I think Chase Briscoe is going to break through, and I'm going to play him until he does. This is almost the opposite.
You won't play him until you see
it. I won't feel good about playing him until it happens.
Yeah.
And you know what? So one of these weeks, and as you can see, at $4,900, he's so cheap. If he finishes 25th, he pays for himself probably 2 times over, and he probably is in the winning lineup because you're able to get people, right? Like
that's a car finishing the race and him beating out 10 cars.
Yeah. And so I think the I don't have him. I think it's definitely something like Keaton was talking about earlier. I've left him in the math to talk about because I don't want to just randomly remove people. But that being said, as we'll talk about later, I do like LaJoy. I think he's definitely somebody who, as we go throughout the year, I think will show continued progress. He's with a new team. I think he's a really good driver, and he's definitely somebody who I think is better than starting 34th. And
I'm going to find LaJoy this week. Some.
He's easy to find because everyone else is so expensive.
And I might find one BJ McLeod lineup just because I like the idea of a guy owning his own race team. Dude, when Ricky Parker Racing's running Cup races,
exactly.
Y'all watch out.
We'll see we get it.
I'm going to get a grandfather clock.
Whenever I hit $1 million maker.
I am getting a grandfather clock.
But as we go down, you look at Eric Almirola, who we've talked about extensively.
Yeah.
Value wise, he's there.
He's finding my lineups too.
Yeah, he's hard not to find. I mean, we'll see. I will talk at nauseum why I didn't select him, and then
he's going to be my Homestead JJ Reddick, or not JJ Reddick.
I will talk at nauseum on why I should have found him more.
Yep.
And that's just where we are. But as you can see, the 5th person here, who is my pick to win, is the number 5 value.
You
pick.
love when expensive people pop in value.
Pick.
When expensive guys
that's
pop.
Without even considering him leading laps
as his gunner
without
points.
Anything.
Yeah.
Played better with Keselowski this week.
And that's why I see why you got him in your thing. High dollar guys that pop on value are the key to winning.
It is the answer. So this is my gunner prediction. And it's based on. I say it's based on laps led, but it's based on
true,
kind of a combination of things. What was that?
Big on true.
Big on true. That would be Truex. Yeah.
I figured.
So the top 5 here are purely on the mathematical side. So the way I did it was based on the previous math that we were talking about, the average finish, that type of thing, and then the average amount of laps led, and then I incorporated that. I factored it down to count fastest lap.
Okay.
And then so that's how I found what the top 5 drivers are for gunner predictions. And I mean, they're not surprising people.
It's all the guys that have led all their laps and fastest laps in this course.
I mean, it's Truex, Keselowski, Logano, Blaney, Elliott, who again I don't have a lot of, but I probably will need to. And then I put a couple other picks because these are people that I have in mind. We'll talk about a little bit later. Probably like 2 slides later.
Chase hasn't won this season yet, right?
He has not.
He has not
won
this
the championship
season
last year.
Yeah, I know.
And so we'll talk a little bit about it later. I have a few more people in my gunner pool at large that I probably don't end up selecting, other than Kyle Larson, because I definitely have Kyle Larson. So we'll definitely talk about it. But I think these are, statistically speaking, it's probably gonna at least 1 to 2 of the gunners are gonna come from this side.
Okay.
Probably 3 or 4. I mean, however many there are, probably most of them. maybe one or two surprises like we've seen. I mean, we've seen surprises this year, right? Like we've seen William Byron pop off. We've seen probably William Byron was the biggest one, but like we've seen people pop off that weren't expected. But I mean, these are probably going to be your gunners, and these are the people that I'm building my lineups around and going from there. But as we look at my gunner plot, it wasn't even one slide.
There you go.
I didn't
right
say
there.
I said 3 slides, but it's 1 slide.
These are heat top guys.
These are
price
heat top guys.
I will definitely do a better job proofreading. That was my job this week.
For the record, I asked Keaton to proofread.
No, I did proofread and I missed it. 2 slides.
Nonetheless, but as you see, Truex, Larson, who I talked about, was not on that last slide, but is somebody who I think, between his starting position plus his just like overarching theme of how good he's been all year, and especially coming off of not so great dirt.
He's got to want to prove something, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's got wrecked over and over again. It was not his fault. But beyond that, all the other people are people we talked about. I included Harvick on here, who I have some of, who is super cheap, starting 9th. He's not necessarily somebody who has like necessarily been a huge front runner in Martinsville races, but starting 9th at 9,600, it's hard not to pick. And not only that, but like he's not done great this year, so like at some point I think he's going to pop off.
That makes sense, yeah.
So I definitely have a little bit of him, just because I think at some point
he's due, right? He's due for one.
Yeah. These are he best guys that I think are there.
So
yes.
Real quick, someone we haven't talked about at all this week, and he's further down in your driver pool. But how do you feel about Steinhaus this week?
I don't have strong feelings about Steinhaus.
No, where's
he's starting a little bit higher?
Is he?
I want to say he's starting
because
he
had a good finish to the dirt race, right?
Yeah, which is like normally ends up you starting a little lower. See where he's starting.
The reason I thought about
I want to say he's starting like low teens, and so he's not somebody that I'm targeting.
Okay, I accidentally bet him to win the Cup Series.
The entire thing.
The entire thing at 2,000 to 1. I thought. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2,000 to 1.
So
I thought I was betting.
Odds,
I thought I was Was it 2,000 or 200? Pretty sure it's 200 because I've got 25 to win 5,000.
2,000 would be better.
I thought I was betting him to win the dirt race last week, and what I accidentally bet was him to win the whole Cup Series. I did the same with Larson though, so I've got Larson to win the Cup Series.
That's actually probably not a bad bet. What was his odds?
I believe it's plus 900.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So we got Larson to win the Cup Series, and we also have Steinhaus to win the Cup Series.
Yeah,
so.
Steinhaus is starting. He's starting like further up to the front.
Okay.
He's somebody who he's starting 6th. So definitely, and he's 5,800, so he's cheap. But he's somebody that I would avoid. Maybe in a cash game, honestly.
Was he like a top 20 car or top 15 car?
Probably 15.
Okay.
Like
what are his chances to win the Cup Series? Almost none.
Good luck. At least you got good odds. But no, I think that he is somebody who I have not targeted at all. I think maybe in a cash game, you think he's super cheap at 5,800. Maybe like because if you think he's going to finish 10th to 15th, which I think he probably finishes 10th to 20th somewhere.
Okay.
But like starting 6th, like at 5,800, he probably pays for himself in the cash game.
Get you those medium
and you're
points.
Probably still. But in a GPP, you're going to lose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's just not
Doesn't have the upside.
And we'll talk a little bit later.
He'd have to win. I mean,
there's a few guys who are in the lower, not this driver pool, but the next driver pool, who I want to have more of, but they just start a little bit higher than like I'm ever going to play them at.
I love the how owned will Almirola be here? What's your guess?
A lot.
More than 50% in the big $15?
Yeah, probably.
That's incredible.
I saw a tweet. Somebody said, "How owned will Almirola be? 60 to 80% question mark?" And I said, that seems high. And then I started looking at it, and I was like, "Jeez Louise."
He may be 60%.
If I were to put a number on it, I'd say 55.
Because I think that week that Reddick was so underpriced and starting back,
he should have been on 100%.
55%.
And my only regret is that I didn't have 100% of them, and I only had like 80% of them.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he's definitely somebody who, if he just does like semi well, he pays for himself easy.
Yeah,
but he's
starting
just
31.
so chalky.
Yeah. He's
just there's going to be so many people that have him, and he's either going to like, if he finishes outside the top 10, then he's probably detrimental.
his price, top 10 top 10 gets you 21 differential points, plus finishing 10th gets you 34 points. I think he's probably still in your lineup.
God, no. Damn it.
He's so cheap. I think he'd have to, 15th gets you 23 or 24 plus the differential of 16. I don't know. 15th place probably still gets him there. He's just, starting 31 is rough.
It's really, really hard.
Welcome to Truex, or to Amarola week.
The only thing, I've had so many Amarola weeks. And I really like Amarola, and I think he's a great driver.
You basically need him not to finish.
Yeah, and he hasn't every week that I've had him.
I know. It's a thing that can happen.
But I think the thing about it is that I think they're fully overlooking how good of a value Amarola is, and that we've talked about. I think that Bell and DiBenedetto right around him also offer some really good value and are some pretty good pivots.
And that's exactly what you need to win a big GPP, is a pivot off the chalk.
Because I think DiBenedetto is somebody who has shown, at Bristol a couple years ago, he almost won. He's definitely a guy that has at least top 10 potential, if not better. And he could do really, really well. And, he still has to finish 9 position. No, he only has to finish 9 position. How many positions?
Well, he's a little bit cheaper, so he doesn't technically have to finish 9 positions, but he is not that much cheaper. So, yeah, if he finished 9 positions, he would score equal points in terms of finishing differential points. He would score more, obviously, because 3 positions
so
puts him in 13th.
Like
yeah,
5,
so probably
right?
not quite as many.
It's like 5
higher point differential.
So,
but still, he finishes 5 or 6 points higher than Amarola, or positions higher than Amarola, and he pays off his salary better than Amarola. Yeah. Or Amarola does his thing and he bumps into somebody and he does not finish.
Or like how every other race has been, someone else bumps into him.
Yeah.
I found myself finding a lot of DiBenedetto more than Amarola, and that could be purely because I've been scoring so much, and it's going to score me back the opposite way. But I also found a decent amount, not a ton, not as much as I probably would have liked, but of Christopher Bell.
Yeah, the pivot the other direction.
And I think Christopher Bell's the same way. I think he's in too good of a car. He's too good of a driver to finish 23rd. I think he definitely has top 10 potential. So these 3 drivers are why I had a really hard time finding Alex Bowman and Kurt Busch.
So what's a build look like where you start? So you've got 8,300 apiece. So you start with those 3 and you're pretty much left at 8,300 apiece. Maybe a little bit more, left at 8,400 apiece. But still, a balanced build there. And then you drop down to some of those 6K.
Yeah.
You can maybe free up. It'll be interesting. I might start a build with those 3.
Yeah. It's probably not bad. I think I have a few that are Amarola, DiBenedetto type starts. But I can't remember off the top of my head. But
I'm gonna do my building after because I get all my information from Ricky and then I build my lineup based on what he tells me.
Yeah, and I've already built mine and I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to pivot everything off. But
think
again,
about that Kutcher to that sweet Kutcher to Harmon pivot.
Yeah, I made a really good pivot on the Masters just purely because the person that I pivoted off of didn't make the cut, and the person that I pivoted to is currently like top 5, top 3.
Yeah, top 5, top something like that is yeah.
I think he's T2. So there's definitely some Ricky probably should consider more closer to the times. But that being said, I think there's definitely a couple people here that you would like to get in your lineup, and I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity here because you see the color of this, right? Like the red, which would mean the highest starting position, is Tyler Reddick at 13th. So you have a ton of position differential opportunity.
And I love Reddick.
Yeah, I do too.
But not this week.
I don't know how much.
13th.
Yeah, I don't love him starting 13th because I think he's probably a 5 to 10 type car. But even a 5 to 10 type car with that amount of risk, I think is a little bit too much for me.
Yeah.
Because I say he's a top 5 to 10 car.
He has to be a 5 to 10.
He has to be a top 5 to 10 to make it work. And we'll talk on the next slide. I like Austin Dillon, who is starting further back and is a little bit cheaper and is in the same car and has shown that he has been very, very good this year. So this
and
is
the same goes for Briscoe minus the same car narrative. Yeah. But I think Briscoe is another one that started too far back.
So this is the sub 500 or the sub 7,500, the top 5 other than Eric Jones, who I've been burnt by so far this year.
Yep.
And I'll probably continue to be burnt by because I'm not picking him again this week. He is in my pool, obviously, because he is included. but 16th is just too high for me personally.
You can have that cheap tag.
But Bubba, Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Chase Briscoe, those 4 guys I found in, I think, every lineup probably.
Okay.
Like one of those.
I mean, they're so cheap, right?
Yeah, it's really, really hard not to find one of them because they're guys.
That list was Custer, Dillon, Briscoe?
Bubba, Dillon, Custer, Briscoe.
Okay, those 4. Okay, add Bubba.
And their position differential, I think all 4 of those are easy top 15 cars, maybe better. And I have a hard time not finding them just because they're pretty cheap. Briscoe, I've already talked about. I think he's going to continue to improve, and I think at one week he's going to finish 5th, and everyone's going to be like, I can't believe Chase Briscoe finished 5th.
It'll be William Byron week when William Byron popped off.
Yeah,
he's a good driver, of course.
He's really good. And then Cole Custer, who's ran way better than 26th all year. He's had super bad luck. And then Austin Dillon, who has just ran better than 18th all year too. And it's 7,100. I mean, he's a top 10 car. Around 10th probably, honestly. Right around there. But like, easily a 10th place car. And then Bubba is somebody who I think has shown week to week. Some weeks are better than others.
He can be
but he definitely can be a top 15 plus car. And at 7,300 and starting 25th, if he finishes 13th, then he's probably
if he puts out a ceiling
lineups,
performance
right?
and finishes 10th, like you have to have him.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's like the week that Eric Jones finished 10th, right? Like he started like 26th, 27th. He wasn't that expensive. He was cheaper than Bubba was, but like he wasn't that much cheaper. He was probably about the same price he was now, maybe. But like it was literally like one of those times where I was like, I faded him, and then he finishes 10th, and I was like, okay, and I just got that butt kicked by anybody did, which is fine. But as we look to like the lower half of that, there's a lot of guys who I think can do really well, and then there's also like guys that I'm just generally avoiding.
Talk to me about Alfredo real quick, because he's someone I've stumbled on a few weeks, and I see his tag is low.
I'm keeping pumping him.
Okay.
He is, again, somebody who I think...
He's not finishing well.
He is, again, he's a rookie. I think he's a lot better than he's performed.
Okay.
I don't think his cars are near as good as Chase Briscoe's car.
Yeah.
But I think his cars are... I mean, as we've seen with how Michael McDowell, who is his teammate, has shown, I think his cars are top 20 cars. You know, probably, 17th to 22nd type cars, right? If we're going to make up random ranges. But no, like, I think, like, around 20th would probably be, like, the target point. Maybe some weeks better, a little bit better, some weeks a little bit worse. But I think he's way better than 35th. He's had a few bad weeks where, like, he's gotten in someone else's crashes or he's blown a tire or, like, that type of thing. But, like, he is way better than, like, BJ McLeod at 4,900, and he's only $400 more.
Yeah, how do you feel about him versus LaJoy? Similar starting position,
Alfredo
similar
versus
price.
LaJoy?
Yeah.
I feel very similar actually.
Okay.
I think Alfredo has a little bit more upside because I think those cars are a little bit better.
Okay.
I think they're both pretty good drivers. I think LaJoy has a little bit more experience in Cup, but I think the car quality leans a little more towards Alfredo.
Okay.
So I think LaJoy is more of like a 25th type car, if like he high end, maybe 20th high end.
Okay.
And I mean, hopefully he does better. I mean, I'm pulling for him, but I definitely have a lot of him, and I found myself 5,200 fit in a little bit better than 5,300 in a couple of spots.
Sure.
So I definitely find him, as we'll see. I think we can actually swap over to my distribution.
And these are your already built.
These are my already built lineups. He's pretty high, I'm sure. Alfredo's at 8. 8 of my 20, so 40%, and LaJoy is 5 out of 20, so 25%. So I mean,
Amarola only made it to 2 of 20.
I know.
I'm gonna be over on that percentage.
I mean, that's fair. I probably agree. I mean, you've heard all the things I've said.
All good things.
But like as you look down, maybe I pull off of a little bit of Bubba. It's just hard to find, but it's just hard to find
his price tag.
It's just hard to find $800 over Bubba. So, Keselowski at 75% is a little bit higher than if you followed us last week. I said I'm not going to do any more than 50, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, whatever, or the last podcast ago. I'm not going to do more than 50% of any person in my lineups. And then this week I have 75, 70, and 50. 55.
If you're building 20 lineups, I actually like that build.
So I tempered it because I got killed one week. Because I had Amarola in like 14 lineups, and he wrecked and killed me.
Yeah.
And so I tempered it a little bit, but I went back to it because I think Keselowski's the guy this week.
Okay.
I'm just keying it
Flag, let's go.
Keying it in. And then not only that, but like as I was building out my rosters, it just made a lot more sense to have the guys that I have in this week. I definitely want to go back and see if I can get maybe closer to like 5 or 6. I don't know. Amarola is somebody who I don't think I'm ever gonna have enough of.
And if he's gonna be uber chalk, you're better off to have none of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
because like I definitely have some. I think my 2 are probably have him and DiBenedetto.
Okay.
And I could probably get to him from DiBenedetto in a couple lineups, but I definitely pivoted to Matt DiBenedetto, who I obviously have in 45% of my lineups. I pivoted him a lot.
Isn't Kurt Busch is only another couple hundred, right? From Amarola?
No, he's like 1,000.
Is he 1,000 more?
He's 8,900
versus 81.
81, yeah.
I say 800 more.
So he was harder to get, and I didn't get any of them. So I will say I got him a couple times, and I went back and subbed him out. Yeah, because I got more Bowman, if I'm not mistaken.
So you're not not big on Kyle Busch this week.
Kurt Busch. I am big on Kyle Busch.
Okay.
Kyle Busch I have 8 out of 20.
Not big on the other.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is again, as I talked about a minute ago, if I did 150 lineups, I probably would be like, if I had 150 lineups, I probably would have a lot more even smattering of these people. I mean, probably
because you'd have more of the same raw number of lineups for them.
But like with 20 lineups, I just found it really hard to find Kurt Busch in more than like 1 or 2, and I think I had maybe 2, and I ended up being like, I don't want to only have 2 of Kurt Busch. I want to have either 2 or I want to have 8.
Yeah, 0 or 8.
Yeah, 0 or 8. Yeah, and so and that's what I've been trying to do a little bit better of that I've not necessarily done some weeks is I've had a lot of like stragglers where I've had like 1 or 2 lineups with like a person who like either does really well and I'm like, oh, I should have done more, or has done terrible and I'm like, why did I even put them in? But like at the end of the day, like it didn't matter because like playing them was a net negative for me.
Yeah.
When like if I can get like I don't even have that many people in my
because you can get a couple more Bell lineups or whatever. You can get a couple more.
I have 22
Bowman
people.
lineups.
I have like 22 people in my
pretty good pool,
pool, and so like it was actually funny. So my player pool, gunners and players, was the exact same size as it was last week.
Okay.
This that includes the zeros.
Yep.
But it was a little bit tight. I had more people that I ended up not putting in any lineups.
Okay.
They were in my pool, quote unquote.
They got ownership.
They ended up getting 0 ownership. But it was the same size as it was last week without even trying. Like,
how many similar people, or did you look?
I mean, very similar.
A lot of the same.
I mean, didn't have BG McLeod last week. No, it was very similar though because I'm not sure I had Suarez last week or the last time because I think he was a little bit higher owned. Or he wasn't higher owned. He was higher starting position.
Gotcha.
And he scared me away a little bit. And he scared me away again this week. I will say, like, I think that's something important to note is that, like, I have a really hard time as a NASCAR fan versus a NASCAR DFS player because I think Daniel Suarez and the Trackhouse team has shown so much promise this year that I think they could be a top 10 plus team. But, like, right now, it's really hard for me to justify playing him when he's starting 11th.
Yep.
And so it's like I want to because like I think like eventually I think they're gonna get there. And I think he's a really good driver, and I think like the way that team is coming together, and I think the way they performed way above what anyone would expect them to perform so far has been great. But like as a DFS player, I have a really hard time playing him when he's starting 11th, and so like I've been trying to do a little bit better job of setting expectations on where I think people are going to finish from where they're starting and make it make sense. But I mean, at the same time, with only building 20 lineups, I'm probably going to miss people.
Yeah,
I'm probably I don't have any lineups with Chase Elliott or Ryan Blaney, and I would like to. Like, I mean, if you were like not gun to your head, but like if I was building 50 lineups, I probably have 3 or 4 apiece of both of those. Because I think those are two guys that could pop, and I think they could lead a lot of laps. I think they could win. I think they could, be the gunner that we've talked about. But I had to make decisions. I only got 4 of Truex.
Otherwise, you lose to the rake. I mean, if you have a more even distribution here, where you're playing just 25% of everybody, you lose to the rake. Yeah. You're never gonna win.
I only have 4 of Truex, and part of me wants to increase it, and part of me wants to decrease it to 0 or replace it with somebody else.
Yeah, that's totally reasonable.
Because I think as the highest priced person and as somebody who has done so well in the past year,
drop him and get Logano, and then you're basically all in on Kozlowski and Logano. I mean,
yeah.
Or do the same with Hamlin, all in on Hamlin and Brett, and yeah.
But yeah, so we'll definitely see. I think the thing about what my player pool ended up being is I ended up with a lot of the same lower end guys, which I think probably is not the best way to go. I don't know.
And then you're mixing and matching the higher end. Yeah, no, I think that if you're set on your lower priced values,
I'm set in the sense that I'm confident in them.
Mix and match your gunners.
They're gonna fail me, and
won't be that happy with them.
But no, so I think but that's kind of where we're at on all of this. I think it's definitely something to definitely keep track of week to week on or that I'm keeping track of week to week, and if somebody's watching, it's when I may, every week I'm I've decided to do this, and then it's I've only picked this person, or I picked 7 of these people, then not this one. So, if you want to keep track of what I've done well, what I've done not well of, I think that would be really helpful. And not only that, but just commenting where you think I go wrong, or where you think that I may go wrong, or where you think that I might go wrong, and then I don't, and I can rub it in your face.
So leave that all in the comments below.
Leave it all in the comments. But no, but seriously though, if you have any comments about how you would approach selecting, and how we're not in any ways cream of the crop professionals here.
We're not Awesemo.
We're still we're not Awesemo. We're still trying to figure out all of this, and we want to be a little bit more interactive than we are, I think, because we are, obviously we have this YouTube channel, and we want to, it to be good, and we want to give useful information to people, because otherwise there's no use in us doing it. But that being said, I think there's definitely ways that we can improve, and there's definitely ways that, if you have questions on how to form rosters and, what you're thinking, we definitely, or at least
let's talk.
For especially for NASCAR, I think I have enough info, and he probably is the same way for PGA, is that, we have enough knowledge to be able to be hey, I see, if you want XYZ, these are some people that I think would pair well with those people. Or I think, I don't like Y, but I really like, somebody else that fits in there.
Just talking it through is super helpful. On Wednesday nights when Ricky and I build our rosters for golf, we usually pop on, and just do a FaceTime and talk it through. Yeah,
literally what was the last time, 2 nights? Whenever it was. Literally we did a Zoom in which we just Keaton was building lineups. I already had my lineups, but I was going through mine to make sure it was good or bad. And we were just what about this player? And then we'd be I mean they've done well lately, but do you really want to pay $8,000 for them? And you're I don't know. And that can be super helpful, because exactly what I was talking about earlier. I ended up fully pivoting off of Matt Kuchar onto
Brian
Harmon, who literally pivoted from somebody missing the cut to somebody who I think he's T2.
I think he's -5, so I think in that next group past Zalatoris
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like literally on the first page of the leaderboard. Like,
yeah.
Like that's the type of thing that literally only came because we talked about it, and one of us was like, "No, I don't think that's very good." Or like, and like that's what it's all about, and we wanted to be able to do that, whether it be in our comments here,
DMs.
on our Twitter here.
Yep.
Or Twitter here. There we go.
And our personal Twitters.
Our personal Twitters, which you don't have, but mine's TRParker10.
I'm at John Galt JD.
They'll be in the show notes.
Yep.
But yeah, no, reach out to us, and that's the important thing. We want to be really, really interactive, because if we're not interactive, then we're just talking heads, and sometimes we aren't even talking to anybody.
Yeah, and it's fun for us, so we like doing it. We like talking about DFS. We like playing DFS. So
yeah, and like we've talked about, like I'm more of a beginner in that, like I understand the aspect of, like, especially NASCAR, like I understand how, like, you should generally like build stuff, but like I don't have the vast knowledge of the DFS sphere. So I'm still learning, but Keaton's somebody who has done it for multiple years and is been able to have pretty good performances.
Haven't gone broke yet.
Through exactly, even through like NFL and PGA and even like NASCAR, he's done way better than me. Which is frustrating, but it's fine. But yeah, no. So reach out to us if anyone needs anything. Thank you so much for watching. We are really, really long today.
That's awesome. How long are we at? We're over an hour?
Minute 10.
Okay, I love it.
But
leave some comments below if you made it this long. I'd love to hear from you if you made it this long.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you, everyone. You all have a nice night. I think this race will probably not happen until Sunday. So.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have some weather.
But
So give more time for you to watch this.
But exactly.
Have a good night, y'all.
Bye.